Welcome back. It is pretty obvious to political observers that the Democratic Party has a brand problem right now. A CNN poll out this week has just 58% of Democrats and Democratic leaners with a favorable view of their own party. Perhaps as a result, we've seen more and more independent candidacies pop up ahead of the 2026 midterms from former Democrats. Joining me now is one of them, Democratic Mayor Mike Duggan. He's making an independent bid to be the next governor of Michigan. Mayor, thanks for being here. I know you've been on Meet the Press now before. I want to start with one of your social media posts from earlier this week. You said, for everyone who doesn't want politics as usual and is tired of being badgered into always conforming to their positions of one party or another, Election Day 2026 will be your moment to be heard. What issues that the Democratic Party holds that you were once a part of do you not agree with anymore?
You know, I got fed up in November of 2022 when Governor Whitmer got reelected. She brought in a Democratic majority in the House and the Senate, narrow majorities, and the Democrats had the so-called trifecta. And I watched for 2 years as the right and the left and the Democratic Party fought with each other. Didn't do a single thing for affordable housing, didn't do a single thing to improve the schools, didn't do a single thing to bring more jobs to the state. And they ultimately collapsed in a lame duck session where they fought with each other. And I said, this is ridiculous. The Democrats are only unified around two principles. They can't stand the Republicans in general, and they hate Donald Trump in particular. And people are fed up with that. They're tired of these parties fighting with each other. They want to get things done. And I just finally realized that if we were going to make progress in this state, we'd be better off if somebody governed from the middle and got the two sides to work together, and that's what I'm trying to do.
All right, well, I want to put up what the Michigan Democratic Party Chair Curtis Hurdle told us about your candidacy. He said, quote, "I think most of this is about Mike's ego. It was bruised by the fact that he couldn't actually win a Democratic primary." He's accusing your campaign about being more about opportunism rather than a crusade against the party system. How would you respond to your former chair?
Well, I don't think many people would think running as an independent is an easier way to get elected. But since he said that, 160 African-American ministers, including the most prominent ministers in Michigan, have come out and endorsed me. And that's, of course, made the Democrats concerned. And then one Democratic union after another. Unite Here, the casino and restaurant workers, the carpenters, the millwrights, the plumbers. It's been one Democratic union after another has come out and endorsed me. And I think there's a lot of people fed up. But this week, the Republican Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Detroit Chamber of Commerce, came out and endorsed me. And there's becoming a growing sentiment in this state that they're tired of the toxic Republican versus Democrat. People are tired of politics as usual, and they're giving me a serious look.
Okay, so you know how this works. You've been around politics for a long time. Usually if there's a strong Republican and a strong Democrat and then a third party individual gets into the race, it's usually not the independent that wins. It means that you're going to pull votes from the party that you used to be a part of. Are you concerned at all that you're going to split the Democratic vote and that a Republican could win in Michigan, which Michigan's already a swing state? Isn't that a dangerous proposition?
So all the polling is showing I'm pulling equally from the Democrats and Republicans. Moderate Democrats are favorable to me 7-1. Moderate Republicans are favorable to me 7-1. And the polling showing in southeastern Michigan, I will beat any Republican and Democratic nominee. The city of Detroit's comeback has been so dramatic that people in southeastern Michigan have experienced it are behind me. In the outstate area where it's not in the Detroit media market, I'm not well known. And I'm working very hard now, going to farming communities and small towns and finding a very receptive audience, people who are listening to me as an independent that would have never come to the meeting if I were a Democrat. And it's pretty exciting what's happening.
Well, there's one pretty prominent person who's talking a lot about third parties, and that's Elon Musk, who is, of course, President Trump's former advisor before their falling out. You posted online that Musk got your attention when he started talking about starting a third party from the middle. Would you join forces with him if he offered?
I appreciate that, like many people, he's fed up with the two parties, but my approach is the opposite. I'm running as an independent. I'm not going to get involved in the Republican versus Democratic legislative races. I'm going to work with who wins. Musk is trying to create a third party if you created a third party in Michigan, you'd have more chaos and more division. So I'm not going the third party route. I'm running as an independent who I think can genuinely get the two parties to work together.
So long term, you don't view yourself as creating a new party. The idea would be you'd govern from the middle and then work with both sides once you made it to the governor's mansion.
I am not creating a third party. It's been very clear. I'm running as an independent, and I'm saying to the Carpenters, you're going to support the House Democrats, God bless you. I say to the Chamber of Commerce, you're going to support the Senate Republicans, God bless you. I'm not asking anybody to leave your party. But right now, what's happened in this state is nothing is getting done in the partisan conflict. And the idea that somebody could get people of goodwill on both sides to work together is pretty appealing to a lot of folks in Michigan.
All right, Mayor Duggan, we'll talk with you more as we get closer to Election Day. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
You're right.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.